She too is looking for a place to rear her young. This part of the vineyard looks ideal. But she's not the only shrew to reach that conclusion. 2 shrews is 1 shrew too many. It's a battle of the tiny, fought with the determination of titans. Finally, the pregnant shrew can see off her rival. The sun's rays nourish the vines. They grow, flourish, and cover the landscape with fresh green. The rising sun reminds the badgers that they have to find somewhere to sleep. This would make a great den. But it's taken. Badgers and foxes will sometimes share a den. But this particular fox likes its own space. There's nothing for it. The badgers will have to make their own home. Their powerful claws are an ideal digging tool. Before long, the first tunnel is complete, and the badgers settle into their provisional living quarters. Austria's Krems Valley. Here, the vines emerge from hibernation a little later than their French counterparts. But once the sun grows stronger, the vineyards come to life. Every year at this time, the wild animals return to the vineyard to re-establish their age-old community. Some settle in for the summer. Others are just visiting. The doe is drawn to the young leaves of the vines. Roe deer are the gourmets of the wild, eating only the freshest shoots and herbs. But they're not the only animals with a taste for the finer things in life. An army of rabbits has descended on the vineyard. The quiet of the winter months is banished once and for all. Rabbit mating season begins in spring and lasts until late summer. Rabbits are renowned for their high fertility rates. A female can produce up to 5 litters a year. The bucks have their work cut out. Unlike other animals, the rabbits don't stand on ceremony. Approach, pursue, mate, job done. The young fox is 4 weeks old and ready to explore. His new world is fascinating. It's also overwhelming. Who knows what dangers lurk beyond the den? Only the bravest of cubs will venture far from the safety of its mother. The animals are fascinated by each other. Right now, the fox cub and the rabbit are the same size and a similar weight. This will soon change. For now, the animals are content to engage in a little play fighting. Life as a rabbit would be so easy if only foxes never grew up. But in the empire of the vineyard, even predators have their role to play. Soon, the game gets a little too rough for the rabbits. In just a few weeks, these wild chasers will have a very different outcome. The Kaiserstuhl Hills in southwestern Germany. Originally of volcanic origin, the area has grown wine for centuries. The region's vintners have built terraces to increase the area that can be cultivated. These terraces attract very special visitors in summer. Bee-eaters. The birds establish breeding colonies close to their preferred prey: bees, bumblebees, wasps, and other flying insects. The bee-eaters spent the winter months in Africa. When they settle back into their breeding grounds, it's time to renew old relationships or form new ones. Female bee-eaters are selective, mating only with males who prove themselves willing and able to provide for the family. Fortunately, the flowers in the vineyard attract no end of insects. Male bee-eaters now spend all their days showing their hunting prowess. If they pass the test, they're allowed to mate. Then the real work begins. First, a tunnel must be dug to house the eggs. The sandy walls of the wine terraces are ideal, but building a nest is hard work. And some places are not as suitable as others. Time is of the essence. The females will soon have to lay their eggs. The nest will eventually reach up to 2 meters into the sandy wall. In the south of France, the music of the grasshoppers and cicadas marks the beginning of summer. It's the nicest time of the year, not too cold, not too hot. The red-legged partridges have got over the loss of their eggs in the spring. The rich soil is now full of ants, and they draw the partridges into the vineyard. Mature red-legged partridges are mainly herbivores, but a few beetles or ants are a welcome treat. While the young partridges eat nothing but insects for the first weeks of their lives, to the detriment of the nearby ant populations. But the ants' greatest enemy is found at the foot of the vines: antlion larvae. The antlion larva clears the chosen location of obstacles, then digs itself into the fine soil. Absolutely nothing is left to chance. In less than an hour, the pit is completed. Now it's time to wait. The strength of the sun increases day by day. The ocellated lizard needs the sun's warmth to maintain its body temperature. It's only active in warm weather. Fortunately, the lizard's preferred prey shares its love of high temperatures. Ocellated lizards are the largest European lizards, growing to a length of up to 80 centimeters. It's no wonder they have such an appetite. They'll eat almost anything that crawls, including grasshoppers, beetles, and crickets. Every lizard lays claim to its own hunting territory. A successful hunt may draw the attention of other lizards, but sharing is out of the question. The ants use the warm, sunny weather to gather construction materials for the colony and food for their offspring. They travel far from the safety of the anthill and into the clutches of the lurking antlion larvae. Now its ingenious hunting method comes into play. As the walls of the pit collapse inwards, the tiny predator destabilizes its victim by showering it with sand. This one got away, but the next victim is already approaching. The antlion larva increases the barrage. This time, the tiny hunter is victorious. All that remains is an inconspicuous hollow in the ground. Meanwhile, there's a flurry of activity in Germany's Kaiserstuhl Hills. At 3 weeks old, the young bee-eaters are almost as large as their parents, and they're in a hurry to leave the burrow. Caring for chicks is a full-time job for the adults. They spend most of the day collecting bees By the end of the summer, the Kaiserstuhl will bring forth both a wealth of grapes and a new generation of bee-eaters. In southern France, the vineyards are baking. The welcome warmth has given way to oppressive heat. Ponds dry out. As do the streams. The grapes are suffering. It's even too hot for the lizards. The underground tunnels remain pleasantly cool. A rabbit mother usually only returns to the burrow to nurse her young for a few minutes a day. Now she spends all day with her offspring, enjoying the break from the sweltering heat. Meanwhile, the young rabbits are growing fast. The heat wave shows no sign of abating. The ocellated lizard decides to seek shelter. The reptile will usually settle among stones and rocks, in hollow logs, or in the burrows of other animals. Not this time. The babies would make a welcome meal for the lizard, but their plucky mother is there to protect them. The young rabbits are blissfully unaware of their lucky escape. For 2 more weeks, they'll be nursed and protected by their mother. Then they'll be on their own. Finally, approaching clouds indicate that the dry spell is coming to an end. After 5 long weeks without rain, the parched ground is in urgent need of water. At the last possible moment, the downpour prevents the vines from withering and ensures that the grapes will continue to develop. No matter how much it rains, the ground soaks up the moisture and retains it for the coming weeks. After the rains pass, the vineyard once again becomes a paradise for its inhabitants. The air is fresh and temperatures are moderate. The grasses and plants are saturated. This draws in the wild boars, and they enter the vineyard. The night following a downpour is particularly appealing. The vegetation is fresh, and there's an abundance of both flora and fauna to be eaten. Wild animals emerge from everywhere, as though the vineyard has finally awoken from a long nightmare. Even the genet appears and begins to hunt. In Europe, these cat-like animals are found in Spain, Portugal, and France. The genet's large eyes suit its nocturnal lifestyle, allowing it to spot the smallest movement. A genet's diet includes snails, reptiles, mice, and birds. This evening, there's a grasshopper appetizer. The vineyard is full of them. They're easy to catch. And fun to toy with. The beams of the moon create a magical atmosphere. The badgers come out to play. After a long day underground, a little rough and tumble is just what they need. It might not be particularly elegant, but it's fun. The open-air pool nearby also provides some much-needed recreation. The dog days were a sweaty affair, and the animals are in need of a wash. Not only do they look better after their bath, it's also an opportunity to remove annoying parasites. The badgers take full advantage of the natural spa. A last quick scratch and sniff. The promise of a cleansing bath has also encouraged a wild boar out of its hiding place. There's no room here, but the boar sniffs out its own private pool. Like badgers, wild boars attract lots of parasites, including fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. A long bath helps get rid of many of them, and a thin layer of mud will provide protection in future. Summer nights are full of surprises. The genet is on the prowl. The sleek predator has spotted the blackbird. The genet's eyes allow it to see in the dark. The blackbird is not so fortunate. It's blind to the approaching danger. The laws of nature apply everywhere, even in the vineyard. A moment's inattention can prove fatal. The morning light reveals a transformed landscape. The air is fresh and clean, and color has returned to the vineyard with the rains. The dawn also reveals another of the vineyard's secrets. A truly unusual symbiotic relationship. Aphids consume plant sap and extract the amino acids. They then secrete the resulting water and sugar. This is known as honeydew. The honeydew attracts ants. The ants encourage the aphids to produce honeydew by stroking them with their antennae. They then consume the sweet liquid. Essentially, the ants are milking the aphids the same way a farmer milks cows. Of course, everything comes at a price, and the ants will soon be called upon to protect their herd. For now, however, the aphids can rest between shifts. The Krems Valley in Austria. At the height of summer, the grapes begin to ripen. The young rabbits of the year's first litter already look identical to the older animals. They're still sexually immature, but their parents are ready to reproduce again. The males mark their territory with their scent to keep rivals at bay. The rabbit activity attracts a spectator. The buzzard watches attentively. But the rabbits are safe. They're too large for the raptor. The playful chase is part of the courtship. Before long, the prospective parents are nuzzling at each other. Suddenly, the buzzard spots something far more interesting. A field mouse would make a perfect bite-sized snack. A hamster also appears. The hunt begins. The hamster escapes. The mouse is not so lucky. A single second can make all the difference. An apparently peaceful southern vineyard. But all is not as it seems. For most of the year, the vineyard is left to its own devices. Humans only rarely intervene. The shrew has been able to rear her offspring for 3 weeks without being disturbed. In just a few days, the young shrews will be independent. Unfortunately, the wine growers have chosen this moment to turn the soil and remove grass and vegetation. All the soil's nutrients are needed for the vines. The shrews panic. They escape with their lives, but their burrow is completely destroyed. Time to find a new home. To avoid losing each other, they form a line, each holding on tight to the animal in front. For now, they take shelter among the rocks. The disruption is soon forgotten, and peace returns to the vineyard.